Well, let me share my screen with you. Got some fun photos, and we can get to know OnRamp a little bit better. Have you heard anything about this specific program yet?
I have not.
Okay. All right. So OnRamp is a creative entrepreneur accelerator. It is an accelerator. So it actually has three main components to it. The first is a 3-day intensive business skills training for creative professionals. Takes place in person, and it's 3 full days. So we actually had a little bit of a hiatus through the hardest parts of the pandemic, but we're able to host a safe and really engaging workshop in May with these 30 folks who you see here in this photo. This workshop is it walks through 10 key business ideas specifically for the independent creative, all the way from, your unique value proposition to the customer acquisition cycle and budgeting and entity types. So we tie a nice bow on the end of it, but hit a lot of the key business strategies if you're thinking of yourself as a small business. It was designed by this person here you see on screen, Elaine Grogan-Luttrell, who is a CPA and artist business coach and creative entrepreneurship educator. But the real heart and spirit behind this business workshop is that the creative economy, business, the market economy has some tools that an artist can choose to use if they want to. And at the very heart of it is that we believe in every single one of these people in the room, that they have something very important and they have something very valuable, not just value in terms of money, but also in terms of what it means to be for Indiana to be an interesting and thriving place to live. And so it is an incredibly positive and affirming experience that we recognize the chasm that sometimes artists feel between their artwork and whatever business stuff they feel like they missed in any of their training. So meant to be very approachable and empowering, but still pretty jam-packed, pretty high level thinking sometimes about some of the pretty important things in business. This is so it's a 3-day workshop, and then with 30 people, and then immediately following the workshop is one-on-one coaching with each individual artist and Elaine. Throughout the workshop, we have guest speakers, of course, and this whole accelerator experience becomes a real community building moment for these folks who are coming from all different places in the state. Very intentionally, we draw in folks from very different places, different backgrounds, because this community provides things for each other that no other program could possibly devise, right? I have really wonderful examples of artists who have, maybe three, I can think of a cohort where 3 different generations of single mothers came together to mentor each other, right? And that stuff is really important to what it means to be a healthy small business owner or creative person, but it's of course not something that this workshop itself knew that these women needed or that these folks needed. Or I've seen another cohort, one musician teach another cartoonist how to drive, would go drive to his town 3 or 5 times sometime over the summer, and taught him how to drive so that he could go and do Comic-Con. Or lots of different collaboration that happens throughout this, where a filmmaker is commissioning original works from a composer in her cohort. And anyway, just some really incredible community that happens around this workshop.
And how often do you do cohorts?
Yeah, great question. Typically once a year. However, this year we've partnered with the Indiana Small Business Development Center, who provided us with the support to train additional facilitators and instructors, so that we're doing it 6 times this year instead of Yeah.
And how can people qualify for this? I'm sorry if this isn't in the training.
No problem. There's a short application, and then we're looking for folks. We kind of evaluate it based on, are they creatively, is their product or service or, skill like ready, and they have they articulated their own voice and style enough to be able to talk about like selling it or connecting it with others in an informed way. That's the first thing we look for. We also look for folks who are, self-motivated and committed to this as a career, not just something that they're hoping to pick up. And we're looking for folks who are open-minded about what this experience could bring them. So, because of course, there's a lot of different things they could get out of it. It's not like a nonprofit management course at all. It's all about the individual small business. And then on top of that, we intentionally, like I mentioned before, pull together as diverse of a cohort as we possibly can.
Okay.
We're learning a lot about what it means to build connections so that we have a really healthy, strong pool of applicants who represent all kinds of diversity from Indiana.
Awesome.
So then we just a few more photos of this, but the third part of this accelerator, so there's the workshop, the coaching, then the third part is this fellowship. And that's where you come in. This fellowship is up to $2,000 for every single one of these artists who participates is essentially guaranteed up to $2,000 to put something into action, right? We ask them to think about a project that they can complete within the next year that helps them move their career forward, helps them move toward their goals. And this is essentially like a training, like a grant with training wheels, I guess you could say,
wow,
essentially guaranteed to them, but we put them through the whole process that we normally would do with any grant so that they feel totally confident to apply for more stuff in the future.
Yeah, this is awesome.
It's been a really exciting program to just watch grow. We've been assessing it pretty thoroughly from the beginning, and we continue to. If you're interested in data, I'd love to show you some of the stuff, but we can track kind of growth in a few different ways among each of these participants.
I'm a data head. I mean,
I
deal with that's what I do in marketing. We analyze data, so I love it.
I'll send you some of this information, but we've been able to see that over the course of 18 months after the workshop, folks are still they see incredible gains in how knowledgeable they feel about business, how often they take action, how in control they feel, and how often they measure their own result or growth. We've been able to measure that. Obviously, we see a huge increase right after the workshop, but even a full year, actually, I think we measure out to 18 months after the workshop, those levels are maintained at a pretty high, actually the same amount of growth. Which is incredible. It's not just like a one-time flash in the pan exciting weekend, but it's something that has continued to impact their abilities, or at least their own confidence in themselves for quite a long time afterwards. We've also been able to measure that through the pandemic, artists who participated in On-Ramp were more economically resilient compared to artists across the nation.
Wow.
That was a real, and we of course looked at it in a few different ways, but some of the things that those On-Ramp alumni attributed their experience in On-Ramp helped them maintain more of their savings compared to artists across the nation throughout the pandemic. Of course, helped them adjust their own expenses really intentionally and take control over some of the ways that they needed to, change their business model. And then finally, they really felt like their network and relationships that they built, or at least invested in through On-Ramp, were pretty key to their resilience through the pandemic. So here's some more data about the growth. Can you see my screen still? Okay,
I can.
great. I'll send you this link if you're interested in checking it out more. There's quite a bit of data if you really are interested in that, but.
Got you. So it's actually already there on the site. I can just go and download it.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Do you have any questions so far about what On-Ramp is, like what these artists actually experience?
No, I mean, it sounds like an amazing program. And so for me, I'm here to serve like as a coach, if you will, or to analyze their applications?
Yes, great segue. Kind of both, right?
Okay.
Okay, so here's what's happening right now. You are going to be focusing on the cohort that went through on-ramp in May that you saw some pictures of. You and about four other folks who are professional, creative folks like you, but they may come from slightly different backgrounds. You are all going to serve together as a panel, and you
Okay.
have a batch of, I believe, 15 applications out of the total 30. All 5 of you are going to review the same 15 applications.
Okay.
These applications are all online, and I'm going to show you how to access them and use our online system here. You're going to review these proposals on your own time online until July 28th. So you'll have all of them completely scored and done by July 28th. And then we're going to meet together as a panel online on Zoom, and we're going to go through basically a public grant panel discussion. Have you ever seen one of these happen or been on one of those grant
I
panel
have years
reviews?
ago, for real, I shouldn't say for real grants, but for other types of grants, yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, right? Like philanthropy works in some very different ways.
Right.
But since we are a state funder, we're a public funder, our grant decisions are made in public. We
Got it.
we host a public meeting to discuss the strengths and the improvements for each individual applicant. And of course, we make it really clear exactly what we're prioritizing and why an application receives funding over another. So in any normal grant panel, this is exactly what they'd experience. It is going to be on Zoom, like I said. We're going to discuss each of them, and it is a public meeting. So we invite, don't require it all, but we invite and make available the link to this meeting for any of the applicants, or quite frankly, anybody who wants to watch it at all, who's interested in arts funding decisions. And they may attend, but they will not have any role in the meeting. They won't have any speaking privileges, and you won't be able to ask them questions or speak to them directly there at that meeting. So I'm going to show you a little bit more. I'll talk a little bit more about what exactly how that meeting will function later. But the difference between this fellowship review and any other grant that we make is that, like I said earlier, it's essentially guaranteed. And so we are not looking for should we fund this proposal or should we not fund this proposal? But we're looking for how do we get this applicant to a healthy place to start their project, right? What needs to be updated, changed, revised in order for them to get it off to the best start. And then right after we do that, after you discussed it in a meeting, then I go back to the applicant and we work through any changes we need to together, and then they're off to the races and they start their project. Okay, well, let's take a look at what makes a strong proposal. All right, now I'm pulling up the grant guidelines. You don't need to memorize this stuff. These are all the rules and requirements for the grant, and each applicant has already been provided all of this stuff. But essentially what we're asking you to do is help us make sure that each grant falls within these guidelines and also is the strongest that it can be. So this is a fellowship. It is actually like a project grant. This grant, each applicant must outline exactly what they're going to do with the funding. And then their plan has to follow these guidelines that we're talking about, and they actually have to do what they proposed. Like I said, they can request up to $2,000. We always fund everything that they requested or nothing, right? We don't adjust the amounts that they will be awarded. They've had several opportunities for help developing their proposal, both in person and virtually. Okay, and then here's the timeline for this process. So we're kind of in this in-between zone here where they've submitted their application. You all will be reviewing the applications, and then we're going to meet together the week of August 2nd. Do you have your schedule available? Can we talk about dates?
Sure.
Right now, we're looking at your panel meeting on August 2nd, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time. Do you think that will work for you?
August the 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
This is so funny. My wife has part of my schedule.
Does she block off stuff in your schedule? That's awesome.
She actually she does it on hers and tells me I probably should give her access to my Outlook though, because she knows better than I do, and it's horrible because
That's
I had a
okay.
life where I wasn't dependent upon my wife like that, but I am now. So
That's funny.
So that's a Monday, August 2nd, right?
That's right. Monday morning, 10 a.m. to noon. You can let me know. You can get back to me if you want to check with her.
So no. So 10 a.m. to noon on a Monday. Normally that would be a work day for me. And the only thing I do have a meeting at 10:30.
Okay. Let me see if we can change the time. Is there another time, either the 2nd or the 3rd, that works better for you to have? We will need about 2 hours.
So yeah, so after 12 on that day, after 1 o'clock technically on that day, I'm pretty free.
Okay, sure.
Anytime before noon is a little tight. The same thing on the 3rd. I'm pretty free after 1 o'clock as well, currently.
Okay. Great. Let me just double check with your other panelists and I'll get back to you. All right. Well, let's talk about what makes a strong application. We're going to ask you to focus your assessment on these 3 criteria: their goals, how feasible the project is, and community engagement. So first, and these are really straightforward, is the applicant describing and showcasing their creative work in a clear and compelling way? And does their project have a clear goal that will help them reach their bigger picture creative goal? So the project itself should have a clear, what am I trying to do with this? And how does that feed into the bigger vision that I'm going toward? It should be feasible. The project timeline should be realistic. It has to start and end within the fellowship period of September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022. So 365 days.
Okay.
They have to plan out the details of this project, and it should be clear to you, Adrian, that they can pull it off. And their budget needs to be realistic. It should include all of the costs involved, and all of the expenses should be eligible. They can ask for $2,000 from us, but if they also have other funding sources and they want to do a project that's going to cost them $8,000, but it's clear,
okay if that, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or even if the 2,000 is, even if they don't have another funding source, your 2,000 is just a fraction of their overall cost, as long as they can still justify it in their plan.
Yeah, as long as it seems feasible to you, like it's a solid plan that they can pull off. And then let's talk about eligible expenses. So eligible expenses are actually, they can spend the $2,000 on pretty much anything that helps them do what they want to do, right? Except they can't use these funds for expenses unrelated to the project, obviously. They cannot use it for operating support for an organization. They can't use it for travel or expenses outside of the United States, for tuition of a degree granting program, and they cannot use it for debt reduction or elimination. But beyond that, it's very flexible. They can also pay themselves. If they decide that, this is something that normally I would do, I would get paid for, as long as they justify that to you, like it makes sense, the rate they're paying themselves, or this is something pretty standard or whatever, as long as it makes sense to you and you feel it's appropriate, then that's totally fine with us.
Got
Okay.
you.
So that's two things, goals and feasibility. And then this last aspect that we're asking you to look at is community engagement. Community and engagement are two really nebulous words that mean different things to a lot of people, right? And what we're looking for is an honest, a genuine process of relationship building, where there is two-way communication and there's a mutually beneficial relationship. So that could be a lot of different things. Oftentimes folks will think about like civic engagement or like public community service or something as community engagement. That certainly could be the case, right? And for artists, sometimes that means I'm doing free workshops or I'm donating my work to this nonprofit. Okay, that could totally be community engagement. It could also be that you're building an intentional relationship with your suppliers because you care a lot about ethical supply of your materials. Or it could be that you are, Adrian, actually, I bet you're going to be so good at this because for a lot of reasons, but I think that it also has to do with marketing, listening to and thinking, being thoughtful about who your client or audience is, what they desire, and then like responding to that with a service or creative product that is beneficial to them. And also like that helps you, that makes your business stronger anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So we're looking for some kind of community engagement. And again, it could be a lot of different things, but an authentic, mutually beneficial process of building a relationship. And
so, and you're saying, so it could be something as simple as them putting on a production that the community comes to, or maybe even something like them teaching kids how to paint, or something that just somehow connects with some type of community involvement.
it could be that, but we're encouraging artists to think a little bit more deeply about building relationships where they're listening, and responding. So it could be with the general public, it could be with a specific neighborhood, it could be with other artists they work with, they want to collaborate with, right? And they will tell you, the application itself is really asking them like, who is it that you're trying to build relationships with here? And how are you going to do that? What we really want to see is that investing in these relationships help them reach their goals. We believe wholeheartedly as a commission that community engagement is critical, not only for like some people believe it's an ethical thing, but it's also will make you more successful as an artist because you're being genuine and you're listening and you're responding.
Awesome.
Any questions about what makes a strong application?
No, not based upon this. I'm sure once I get ready to see an application and look at these guidelines and compare them and see the variation, I'll be able to get the flow right. I think it'll probably be. I get the idea, so it'll just be a matter of comparing it against the application against these rules and guidelines, because I'm assuming I'm going to score.
Yeah, you'll actually, I'll show you here. Here's what our online system looks like. I'm actually logged in as you right now.
Okay.
So I've created an account for you. It's using your Radio 1 email address. It's your login. Okay. And then the first time you log in, your temporary password is welcome, no caps.
Okay.
And then you'll change it right when you get in the first time. So here's what the system looks like. When you log in, you should come to this exact page that we're looking at here. This is your workload. You have 15 applications to review. And as I scroll down, obviously they're listed here. So to open up an application, I'm going to come all the way to the right of this row and click the start button. So click start to start. When I click on it, it opens up to a side-by-side view of an application on the left, on the right, and an evaluation on the left.
Okay.
You can, obviously, because this is just a web browser-based program, you can use this on any device that you want to. But you can see like my screen is a little bit condensed, and so some of the stuff is overlapping. So feel free to mess around and view what you need to. So I'm going to show you right now, since you asked, what the evaluation looks like. These buckets that we talked about just a moment ago is exactly what you see in this evaluation form. And what you're doing is just going to check, do each of these points, are they each fully addressed in the application, or is more work needed on one or more of these points? So when you pick one of those, and then we asked you to give us some specific feedback on why you chose that, especially if you tell us that more work is needed on one of these things, tell us how. This is where the coach or
provide direction.
Yes, that's where that comes in. Be specific and use your own experience and your own perspective and professional like knowledge to help them figure out how to make maybe those goals be a little bit more specific, or help them get to where they want to go. So there's that exact question for each of those 3 sections we talked about, the feasibility, right? Then you're going to check one of these. And then of course, for community engagement, you're going to check one of these. Okay, really straightforward. This application over here, you're going to get used to really quickly. It is pretty intuitive. It looks like the exact form that this applicant filled out. Don't worry, you're not going to mess anything up. You can't edit anything in the application over here. So you can tell, obviously, this is the question and this is their response. There's only one thing that's not obvious to you as a panelist, and that's if there has been an upload, if there's been a file submitted for part of their application. There could be 2 places where the file may have been submitted, and it's easy to miss. So the first is in this section where they provide samples of their creative work. There are 2 ways they can give us a sample. They can either upload a file or they can give us a link to where we can see their work. And so this person, it looks like, gave us a link. Okay, great. So we're just going to copy it and paste it, obviously. They may also give you like a Dropbox link or something like that. That's fine. You obviously don't have a file to view here. But the other place where you will see a file upload is this artist resume. This is the file, this blue link, easy to miss. Where there is an upload, you see this eyeball, that icon signals that there's an upload there. So I can either click on that link to download the file. If I don't want to download the file, I can click the eyeball, which opens up a preview. I can flip through the pages of this. The thing I really like about this document viewer is that if this applicant had given us a second, like in that earlier question where she gave us a YouTube video instead, if she had decided to upload a series of images or a video or something, it would show up here in this as a list here below this resume. And so I could toggle back and forth between it. So what I like to do when I come into an application for the first time, I just click this document viewer button. It's the exact same thing as what we just did by clicking the eyeball. And that way I don't miss anything. I can see any file that's been uploaded in this application right here on the right side of the document viewer.
Okay.
You're going to get faster at reviewing these the more that you do it. But I would estimate that it may take you about an hour to review each of these applications. So make sure that you're planning ahead, because we need you to have all of these applications reviewed
by the 28th.
By the 28th, yeah.
Got it.
Everything saves automatically in this system. There is this handy save button at the bottom. Reminds me, hey, you didn't do anything yet. Go back and do some work. I can go back. I can take a nap. I can go get my dinner. That's fine. You don't have to do all of them at one time. You don't even have to finish an entire thing at once. And I'm going to click Return to Dashboard to see my workload. And you can tell we've already started looking at this one. So it has this nice satisfying status bar that changes colors as you complete some work.
Gotcha. So, okay.
So it'll turn green once you've actually finished it.
Okay.
Okay, that's how you use that. Any questions about this online system?
There isn't. Now, I noticed that it says Greater Lafayette. So are these people based in Lafayette?
No, they are not. But this is the cohort that you're reviewing had their on-ramp in Greater Lafayette. So that's what we call them. Yeah, they're from all over, all over.
I went to Purdue, so my mind thought, oh, Lafayette. So
Oh my gosh. What did you
Yeah.
study at Purdue?
I was in industrial management.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. You've done a lot of different stuff.
I know, right?
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the panel day, right? So we figure out what time we're meeting. I'll send you a Zoom link and you'll show up to the Zoom meeting with the 4 other panelists. I will also be there. And then there will also be a facilitator. This facilitator is going to help us move through the discussion in a structured way. It's going to make sure that every application gets a fair review. I'm there just to listen. Remember how I said that, like, I will go back, I'll listen to your feedback, and then I'll go back to the applicant and help them adjust anything that they need to. That's why I'm there. I'm not going to be part of the discussion at all.
Okay.
We're going to use a specific discussion format where there's a first reader and a second reader. Have you done this before?
I have not.
Okay, you'll pick up on it really quickly. But the most important thing to know is you still read and score every application on your dashboard. But if you're the first reader or the second reader, you're going to be starting conversation about it.
Got it.
So right after this Zoom call, I'm going to send you an email with a couple links. The most important thing to do first is fill out a conflicts of interest form. And then I'll put together this discussion reader list. Okay. So if you have a conflict of interest, it's no problem at all. I won't even give you that application to read, and we'll just kick you in the waiting room while we discuss it.
Okay.
But a conflict of interest generally is any paid or official relationship with an applicant. That conflict of interest form that I send you outlines exactly what a conflict of interest is. And it also lists all of the possible people who you might be reading applications from. And if you see a name on that list that fits one of those relationships that's listed there, then just write it down in that form, and I'll make sure you don't have to worry about that one.
Sounds good.
So once everybody on your panel does that, then I put together this list, the first reader and second reader list. So let's imagine this, right? We are in Zoom on panel day. You should log into your online dashboard and you can have the applications in front of you. You can still have access to each application even during the meeting, and you can change things if you want to during the meeting. The facilitator will kick us off. She'll say, all right, now we're going to start by talking about the application from Alicia Criswell, and our first reader is Matt. And so if Matt were the first reader, he would start the conversation by providing his evaluation of the application. Tell us about the things that were amazing. Tell us about the things that need to improve. Focus on those 3 criteria, right? Goals, feasibility, community engagement. We want to hear about those 3 things. If you felt they were strong, and specifically what ways they could improve. You don't need to recap the application. You don't need to present like what they were proposing. Pretend that everybody in that meeting already knows what you're talking about, because everybody has already read those. So if you were the first reader, that might take you 3 or 4 minutes. And then the facilitator would say, amazing, thanks so much, Matt. Now our second reader is Julie. Julie, do you have anything new or different to add? And that second reader will share anything that Matt had not already brought up, or maybe something that she totally disagrees with Matt on. Maybe she is actually an experienced professional in art therapy and understands more about this applicant than Matt might. And we encourage you to provide something to give it a well-rounded perspective, right? Don't need to reiterate anything that's already been said, just anything new or different. We're not going to try to come to consensus in this meeting. We want to hear lots of perspectives. So then after the second reader finishes, that might take another like 2 or 3 minutes. Then the facilitator will say, awesome, great points. Now, anybody else on the panel, what else? Do you have something new or different to add? And any of the other panelists, of course, we want to hear anything new or different. And then we'll repeat that for every single applicant. So first reader just provides their assessment. How was it strong? Ways that it could be improved. Second reader, same thing, but new or different perspective. And then the full panel, same thing.
Then you're taking notes from that discussion and then sharing it with those artists.
We're going to record that meeting too, so that if they're not there on the day of listening, then they can still go back and hear it. But yeah, that moment is really, this is the time for you to put on that coach, that advisor hat, right? We really want you to pretend like you're sitting and while you won't be, right? You won't be interacting with the applicant. Pretend like they're sitting across the table from you. And think about the constructive ways that you can help them get off to a good start, right? Be that advisor and that trusted voice that gives them confidence, but is still like expecting a lot from them, right? Okay. So that's how the panel is going to go. And then after that, you're off the hook. After that panel discussion, you're done. Okay. You do not need to and should not contact any of the applicants. Okay. Often I will, panelists might say, hey, I'd love to follow up and continue to work with this person. That's great. Just let me know and I'll be happy to connect you. But I can't, as a policy, I can't give any contact information out cold. Okay, we already talked about the online system. So here's what's next. I'm sending you that email with the conflicts of interest form. After you do that, I'm going to put the reader list together so you know which ones you're starting conversation on. We'll make sure we have the right date for the panel discussion, and then you can, even today, if you want to, you can log in and start reviewing applications. Okay, great. They're ready for you. Because I need to get to the 28th. No, I'm joking. All right. My last advice, of course, act as a mentor, a coach, or a friend. Keep that criteria front of mind. So when we're asking for your feedback, we're asking you to focus it on the goals, the feasibility, and the community engagement. We want thoughtful and tangible advice, of course, something like, yeah, this isn't working for me. Like, that's not a helpful piece of feedback, is it? We want something tangible and actionable. You already know you're not going to wait till the last minute. And then now you have my contact info. And so if you have any technical issues at all, just call me. Don't hesitate. This is Ira Mallory. You know Ira Mallory? I don't. He's a filmmaker here in Indy. Oh, wow. But I love this photo because Ira's having a moment here in On-Ramp Workshop. And he is the type of guy or the type of person that's on the other side of the application, right? This experience, as we've already talked about the data, and I've given you a couple of short stories of how people connect over On-Ramp. This is often a very pivotal moment for a lot of creatives who go through this program. They're getting poured into in so many different ways. And your feedback is yet another piece of that. Your encouragement and your, real guidance is going to keep Ira moving. It's going to keep this kind of energy up for him. Well, thank you. Okay, Adrian, that's all I have for you. Are you ready? That's all you have? Yes. Wow, okay. Well, I really look forward to it. I'm really excited. And you were saying with the website, I need to do what specifically? With this? Yes, how do I go to find this? I'll send you a link to log in. Okay. It's kind of an annoying URL. It doesn't have something memorable. So just bookmark it when you get there. Okay. It's the email address that we've been emailing back and forth. And then your temporary password is welcome, all lowercase. I'm going to send you that. I'll send you that link. I'll send you the conflict of interest form, and then go ahead and get started. Well, I look forward to it. I'm excited. Thank you, Adrian. I'm really glad that you're part of this panel. You're gonna make it amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you again for the opportunity. And I look forward to reviewing the projects and seeing, where else this relationship evolves to. So yes, I'm excited.
Likewise. Thank you, Adrian. Have a good one.
Thank you.